The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome back. It is great to be back from vacation. Many things happened politically. Many things happened on my trip, on Pat's trip. So much to discuss. But before we get into that, so we had these themed shows last week. As many of our longtime supporters know, we've tried different things when the show is off. We've tried just nothing, no new shows. We just re-upload an old show. Some people like that. Some people get confused. Some people don't like it. We've had guest hosts. We've had a number of different guest hosts, most frequently Benjamin Dixon or Farron Cousins. And some people like that. But the typical complaint there is, if I wanted to watch them, I'd watch their show instead of yours. That's a common complaint. The other one is they also do their own shows, so I don't really need to see them on your show. You should do something else. Like, we're watching your show in order to see you. So this time we had 5 different themed deep dive episodes on a bunch of different topics. And mostly, Pat, the reaction was the most positive of anything. And I got a lot of very specific emails from people saying, oh, what I like about this is when you just upload, it's you. Like, we're watching your channel because we like you. So it meets that criteria. It's not somebody else. And when you just re-upload an old show, it's often very dated in that a lot of the stories are just topical stories that are irrelevant. Here, you're hand-picking a narrative based on stories that are more evergreen and telling sort of a new story, and we're seeing how a particular story has evolved. So people, I mean, I'm sure I didn't hear from lots of people as well who did not like it. There's always people who don't like it. But in terms of the people that reached out, they said this is the best format for when you were not in.
That's great feedback. That's great to hear. Maybe we have a solution for when we go on vacation or when you're just unavailable to do the shows for a few days. Yeah, I mean, I like having guest hosts too because it changes it up a little bit, and people may not necessarily know about Ben Dixon's channel or may not know about Farron Cousins' channel, and that gives them the exposure. So maybe like a mix of having guest hosts and theme shows is the path forward for us. It's surprising, though, that not too many people complained about the theme shows because usually people find a way to complain about something that we're doing, and apparently not this week. We were able to get away with it.
Yeah, the only complaints I got were people who are not used to seeing the introduction to the show, which is both a visual introduction and music, and they just said, that's terrible. What is that? Is that new? And it's like, no, you just don't usually see it because you're usually watching clips. I think the downside to the themed shows is they require more pre-work for us, and at a certain point, we might come up to the limit of the number of different topics, as we were talking about off air. But I also want to hear from people in the audience about what other topics have we covered extensively enough that we could put together a good themed show. The downside to the guest hosts is the full staff can't be on break because we need partial staff in order to produce the show with the guest host. So that's sort of the downside there, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if we do theme shows 1 week per year, and then other times that we're going on vacation, when we're swapping out vacation weeks, then we can implement the guest host things. I think between those two things, we should have a good balance. And the alternative, of course, is just working 52 weeks out of the year. And maybe many people in the audience would appreciate that, but I think that we do need our time to relax and recover.
I don't think we're going to be doing that anytime soon. So, okay, I went to Aruba. I really didn't do much. I just went to the beach every day. I had a list of about 15 or 20 things to do while on the island. Most of them, unfortunately, were really lame. Like, one thing on Aruba is you go to the California Lighthouse, and it's sort of like elevated, and there's a nice view. It was tourist hell. I jumped up onto a big rock to have my girlfriend take a picture of me, and a guy literally comes over and stands 6 inches away, and he's like in the picture, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to just get a picture on this rock with the view. I don't necessarily want a picture. I know that you want to be next on the rock, but can you just like get away? I got down off the rock to hand my girlfriend my phone, and the guy just jumps on, and I hadn't even taken the picture yet. And so I say, excuse me, I was just there. And this is a conversation. The guy spoke Papiamento. I just spoke to him in Spanish, and we were understanding each other fine. But I was like, so he gets off, and then he again stands right next to me as I'm trying to take this picture. Whatever. I figure out a way to angle it where I'm blocking him. I step down, and then he immediately steps up and right away says, excuse me, could you get out of the shot? And I said, that's exactly what I was doing. And he said, well, you should have asked me to get out of the shot. Like, just these weird tourist conversations where I just hate anything that's filled with tourists. I went to some, people said, you've got to go to Baby Beach. You've got to go to Arashi Beach. And I would check out each of these beaches, which was not the beach I was staying on. They were all packed with tourists. And in the end, I was like, the best thing is the beach I'm staying on, which is the least touristy one. I'm not even going to name it because I don't want anyone going there. And in the end, that was the best thing, just to sit at the beach.
Yeah, I feel like you were taking a look at the top 10 things to do in Aruba or the top 15 things to do in Aruba, but oftentimes they just kind of have to come up with a certain number of things. Like there may not be all that much exciting stuff to do there aside from just relaxing on the beach, but they still have to come up with the list, right? They still have to put things on the list. So you end up having to go visit some strange lighthouse that may not be all that interesting, or some packed beach. But at the end of the day, if it's a beach-like vacation and it's not really known for like sites specifically, just for relaxing, maybe it is best to just kind of unwind and spend a day chilling on the beach, not necessarily trying to like get everything checked off your list.
Yeah, I mean, we after seeing a couple of the things, I was able to reevaluate everything else on my list and start crossing certain things off without actually doing them, which really gave me a lot of time to do just a bunch of reading on the beach. I actually read 3 books during the break, which was great. And otherwise, I mean, the people are extremely nice. There was no sort of defined Aruban culture that I could identify, because Aruban culture by its nature is sort of a mix of things. It's amazing that basically everyone speaks 4 languages, Dutch, Papiamento, English, and Spanish, very well. And, you know, here in the US, we can't even get people to understand the importance of maybe speaking more than just English, at least with some kind of passing level of fluency. That's super interesting. Sadly, the cuisine was not great. Basically, the island is mostly set up for tourism. So the restaurants are what your average sort of like American tourist would want. So there's a lot of chains, a lot of these gimmicky Italian restaurants that, you know, are just like terrible. But I was able to find like 3 or 4 places. There was one breakfast place, which was great. All the wait staff was Venezuelan, because it's so close to Venezuela that a lot of people have obviously fled Venezuela and are now working in Aruba. Really, really nice wait staff. We went there, I think, like 5 times. Found 2 good dinner places. And that, if you know, what would make it, it's got the perfect weather. It has the perfect beaches. The water is totally clear. The people are super nice. What would really make it over the top would be if the cuisine and the food scene was better. I think that would make it significantly better.
Yeah, it sounds like the island is 95% of the way there. They just got to improve on that. But that's okay. I mean, for me anyway, cuisine doesn't rank at the top of the list for things that I want to experience on a vacation.
No, you're bringing the Soylent anyway, so.
I'm bringing the Soylent anyway. It's not that big of a deal. But it sounds like for you, you were just happy to be in a place at a beach with warm water, because I hear that you're just absolutely terrified of going in the water around here. Even in the summertime, Cape Cod, up at Hampton Beach in New Hampshire, you're just not feeling any of that stuff because the water's too cold for you.
Hampton Beach is so overcrowded with people that I haven't been there for 15 years and I would never dream of going there again. But on the Cape, yeah, I mean, the water's just too cold. Even in August, it's not that warm. And the water temperature in Aruba was fantastic. I just walk directly in, and that's, honestly, clean beaches, not covered in cigarette butts, and with actual smooth sand and clear, warm water, that's 95% of the game right there.
Yeah, so it sounds like you would give it a 4 or 5 star Yelp review. Like,
yes.
How would you rate the vacation overall
Very
after
high.
you went?
Very, very high.
Very good. That's great to hear. Should I tell
Please.
some of my vacation stories, or are we just going to leave that for the extra bonus show?
No. Please go
It's only
right
between us. Okay. So I did an epic road trip. Started in Denver. Did this big loop where I went all the way through Colorado into Utah. Saw the 4 out of the 5 national parks in Utah. Then went over to Las Vegas, and then kind of headed back through the Navajo Nation in northern Arizona, and then back through Colorado. It took a little over a week to do the whole thing. Very exciting stuff happened. A lot of it was just, going to the parks, going on hikes, checking out the amazing views there. Big variety of landscapes too. Like when I was in Colorado, it was of course a lot of greenery and mountains and lakes and that sort of thing. And then in Utah, I mean, you're pretty much in the desert, but you have these cool like buttes and these cool like monuments, and everything's orange and red. Obviously, Vegas is its own thing. The Navajo Nation is its own thing. So, like the diversity of things that I got to experience there on this road trip, that was really stand out to me, and I'm glad I was able to do all that stuff. That being said, it was, of course, not entirely without controversy. Like the first day I went to Rocky Mountain National Park, which is just outside of Denver, and it was very cold. I was not prepared for the cold. I thought, it's August, and I should be totally fine with just shorts and a t-shirt here. Not so much, especially after it rained for a good amount of time in Rocky National Park, and I had to set up a tent at night in this like windstorm thing, and the stakes were just not staying in the ground when I was trying to set up the tent. It was blowing all over the place. Eventually, my friends just decided to sleep in the car, which he could do, but there really wasn't enough space for both of us to do. Excuse me. And so in 40-degree temperatures, I had to just try to survive in this tent that ended up collapsing on top of me in the middle of the night. And I woke up just freezing cold, and I look up, and all I see is like this beautiful starry night sky, because even though the tent is still over me, only the screen portion remains, because like the flap that covers you as a tarp has fallen off. And so I'm just completely exposed out here, trying to survive, trying to stay warm. I have my sleeping bag. I hope I don't get eaten by a bear. So I had to like try to change and adjust the accommodations throughout the night a few times. It was absolutely miserable. And by the time 5:30 came around and I was able to wake up and start my day, I was very, very pleased. It even got me sick for a couple of days, which was kind of annoying.
Now,
Not
were you
terribly
starting your
sick, but I
days
got
at
like a little cold.
5:30 every day, or was the 5:30 thing only because of the specific tent fiasco?
Well, when you're camping, you do get up early. You get up with the sun, and by the time sunset comes around, there's not that much to do. You can maybe read with a flashlight, play on your phone, that sort of thing. But you do get in the routine of just being up with the sun. But that day specifically, I just wanted to get up as early as possible because I just wanted the misery to end. But otherwise, very beautiful experience over at Rocky Mountain National Park. Nearly getting eaten by a bear. Exposed in the wilderness. That was a little bit terrifying at times. Getting sick for a couple days, that was not great. But all part of the experience, right? So that was Rocky. I also went to Arches and Canyonlands National Parks in Utah. Those were two of my favorites. It was like the land of the dinosaurs out there, and some really cool views. There was this one view in Canyonlands where I just saw these like purple canyon landscape things, and it was just like the colors out there were just incredible to me. I can't even go into more detail about it. Las Vegas, I know you said you weren't huge on Las Vegas. I thought it was interesting. What stood out to me the most was the fact that you can't even just walk around there. Like, to cross the street, you have to go up an escalator, over a bridge, and then down an escalator. So to walk, a mile, which would normally take you 15 to 20 minutes, it takes you well over a half an hour. And that to me was just not acceptable. Like, you have to make these cities a little bit more pedestrian friendly, right?
What did you actually do in Vegas, though?
Pretty much just stayed at the hotel. I was a little bit exhausted. I'm not, too big into the gambling, but I had to waste some money on the slot machines. I was showing my friend how to gamble using those for the first time, which is, of course, very straightforward. But, I was telling him I'm all about the losses disguised as wins that we've talked about and had interviews about on the show. How casinos are set up so that it makes you feel trapped in there, how there's no clock on the wall, how the carpeting is patterned in a way that just kind of keeps you insulated and makes you not want to leave. And, I was just showing my friend all this stuff, and he was kind of perplexed by the whole thing. But yeah, I wasn't too into Vegas, honestly. I don't know if I'll go back anytime soon.
What was the degree of Soylent consumption in the end?
I actually had way too much Soylent at the beginning. I didn't spread it all the way through the trip. So by the end, I was having a lot of like granola bars and going out to eat quite a bit. But I ultimately survived the trip. I think I had a good calorie intake day to day. Yeah, I mean, like I don't think that was a big problem. Also went to Monument Valley where Forrest Gump was partially filmed. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but there was like a montage of him running across the country.
Yeah.
And so where he decides to stop running is at Monument Valley. And so we reenacted that scene, but that was kind of cool. We also had shots of us just sprinting in front of these other landscapes. So maybe we'll be able to make a movie out of it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it for now. I think that's about all the stories I can tell. Very good vacation, very relaxed, rejuvenated, ready to get back at it.
All right, very good. Well, listen, if people have questions about Pat's trip or my trip or specific things you want me or Pat to address, by all means, let me know, and then we will do a follow-up later on this week. But otherwise, we're back. It's a completely normal week of shows this week, much to the excitement and or dissatisfaction of people in the audience, depending on whether you like or dislike this show. So that's it for today. New show, new bonus show tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.